He said, pray as you see me pray. Utter these words that you hear me say. Based on the Sunnah, worship Him, just follow them.
Assalamu alaikum. New class coming to you every Monday and Wednesdays, taught by Ustad Layla Nashiba, the fiqh of prayer. Every Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Inshallah, we'll see you there. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers.
And winter. Can anyone answer?
Ya'lam means midnight. Tarawih means the beginning of midnight. Witr means odd number. And tahajjud refers to the third of the night.
Okay, I want you guys to remember these are not different prayers. Those are Arabic terms that refer to the different parts of the night. Tarawih is the beginning or the early part of the night. Qiyam el-Lail means to stand during midnight. Okay? Tahajjud means the last third of the night. And witr is just an Arabic word that means odd number. So I don't want any of you to ever get that confused, because a lot of ignorant Arabic people make fun of non-Arabic speaking people for that. Because non-Arabic speaking people think that those are three different salats, when no, they are not. Those are just terms that refer to the night. They all refer to what prayer? All those different terms I just used refer to what prayer?
Night prayer.
Yeah, the voluntary night prayer. And what time does the voluntary night prayer begin? And what time does the voluntary night prayer end?
It begins after Isha and it ends when Fajr comes in.
Exactly. It begins after Isha and it ends after Fajr. Before Fajr, when the Adhan for Fajr is pronounced. So that's the night prayer. How many rakats does it have to be?
Any odd number.
Exactly. Any odd number. That means you can perform as many rakats as you want, as long as you end it with an odd number. So can I make one rakat for my night prayer?
Yes.
Yes, I can. And another question, do I have to perform the sunans of the Isha prayer in order to get credit for performing the voluntary night prayer? No, I do not. And I want y'all to remember that. And I can just make my Isha prayer and then make one rakat and call it a night. And do I have to go to sleep and then wake up to perform the voluntary night prayer?
No, you don't. No.
Good job. No, I do not. So that's all we discussed about the night prayer. That's all you need to know. During the month of Ramadan, you'll be performing the night prayer behind the imam at the mosque in the Tarawih, which means in the beginning of the night. And if I do perform the night prayer behind the imam, can I come home later on and decide to wake up for tahajjud?
No.
Why not?
Because you ended at the. I'm sorry, go Sister Nisa.
Because you ended with the odd. That's it.
Exactly. The Prophet Muhammad said, once you perform the odd number rakat, there is no more rakats for that night. There's only one odd number. That's it, because Allah is one. He has no partner. Okay? So if you're going to perform Tarawih and do the complete Taraweeh with the Imam, then there's no need to make any other voluntary prayers at home. You can make dua, you can supplicate, but no more prayers. Now, what would I do if I wanted to continue to pray at home? Say I go to the mosque during Ramadan and I just decide I'm going to do a few rakats with him. Why wouldn't I complete the rest? Because I got plans on praying at home. You just don't do the witr with him, because there's only one witr. The Prophet ﷺ said there's only one witr. Everybody understand that? So that's the night prayer. So now today we're going to go to the next voluntary prayer. And again, what's the difference between the Sunnah prayers? No, what's the difference between the Sunnah rakats of a salat and voluntary prayers? Listen to how I'm asking the question too. That'll help you to answer correctly. The question is, what is the difference between praying Sunnah rakats of a prayer and praying voluntary prayers? What's the difference?
Are Sunnah rakats what the Prophet, may peace be upon him, prayed, and voluntary are just recommended ones that we can do?
No, that's not really the correct answer. Anyone else? Good try, but go ahead. Go ahead.
The Sunnah rakats are they have a specific time after the prayers, but the voluntary ones you can pray anytime, however many rakats you want.
Okay, yes, write this down. The Sunnah rakats of a prayer consist of a specific number of rakats to be prayed at a specific time. Whereas voluntary prayers do not consist of a specific time, nor do they consist of a specific number. Does everybody understand? Everybody understand? Say it again, Brother Edward. Okay. The Sunnah rakats of a prayer, they consist of a specific number and they are prayed at a specific time. You got that? Voluntary prayers are of no specific numbers and they are not prayed at a specific time. You got to use the word specific. Specific time, specific number. That's the difference. Everybody got that? So the night prayer. The night prayer, is that a specific? No. It can be prayed anytime after Isha until Fajr. And it can be as many rakats as you want. But the Sunnahs of Isha, they have to be prayed at a specific time and they consist of a specific number. The specific time is after Isha. The specific number is 2 rakats. Everybody see the difference? Is that clear? Okay, so now, inshallah, I'm going to speak about another prayer that falls in a category of voluntary. Voluntary. And this prayer is known as the Duha prayer. There he is, Brother Timothy. Brother Timothy, you've been sending me all kind of emails about the Duha prayer. So I'm going to talk about it today. There you go. So tonight we're going to speak about the Duha prayer. The Duha, and it sounds just the way it's pronounced. It is pronounced the exact way that I spelled it. Duha. Duha. The Duha prayer, not Dhur. Don't confuse Duha with Dhur. Duha and Dhur, they're different prayers. Okay? So let's take a look at the Duha prayer. We have many hadiths that speak about the excellence or the virtues of the Duha prayer. For example, Abu Dar, he tells us that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and let me fix my screen so I can read. Oh, there it is. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, charity is required from every part of your body every day. Whenever you say, praise be to Allah, that's a charity. Whenever you say there is no God but Allah, that's a charity. Whenever you say Allah is the greatest, that's a charity. Whenever you command people to do what's good, that's a charity. And whenever you stay away from that which is evil, that's a charity. And what suffices for all of this as a charity, in other words, you'll get the reward of doing all those things, is to perform 2 rakats of duha. Now, let me give you guys the history behind what happened to make the Prophet say this. This is where the history of Islam comes in. You have to know the history of Islam. You cannot sit up and read these hadiths on your own and think that you understand what Allah or the Prophet is talking about. The hadiths are the things that the Prophet Muhammad said and did. Something had to happen to cause him to say what he said. Something had to happen to cause him to do what he did. So you have to know what happened to make him say or do it. So what happened to cause the Prophet to say this? Well, this after the conquest of Mecca, and you guys have learned about the conquest of Mecca in the Islamic history class with Brother Mukhtar. When the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam entered into Mecca and took over Mecca from the Quraysh, what happened? The Quraysh converted to Islam. Muawiyah, Hind, Abu Sufyan, he converted before then, but his wife Hind, y'all, we talked about Hind on the battlefield during the battle of Tabuk. Okay, Ikrima, who lost his life during the battle of Yarmouk, they all converted to Islam. And remember, guys, the Quraysh were the relatives of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They were his aunts, his uncles, his cousins. And the Quraysh had money. They were the wealthy Arabs. They were wealthy. When they converted to Islam, Shaitan began to whisper into the hearts of the original companions who were with him, had been with him in Medina. And they said, subhanallah, now that they're all Muslim, they got money. They can give in charity. They can do what we can't do. What happened was right after the conquest of Mecca, that's when the people came and told the Prophet that the Romans were gathering an army. So the Prophet stood at the Kaaba and announced, "Oh, you Muslims who believe in Allah, we have to go out and fight the Romans. We need horses. We need supplies." And of course, the Quraysh.
Irahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
And of course, the Quraysh had money. Of course, the Quraysh had horses and all of that. So they donated their money, they donated their horses and all they had to go and fight this battle. And some of the companions said, wow, we don't have no money. We ain't got no horses. We ain't got no camels. We'll never be able to surpass them in regards to reward from Allah, because they'll be able to give up the money and stuff needed to fight in the way of Allah. When we're poor, we'll never be able to catch up with them. And that's when the prophet said these words. He said, charity. He said, every time you perform the Duha prayer, Allah will reward you for every joint in your body. And let me put this up so y'all can see. Hold on. Fix the screen. Yeah, I forgot I'm working two computers. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in a human being, there are 360 joints, and a man must make charity for each one. And the people said, who can do that? The Prophet said, one may cover the mucus that one finds in the mosque, or you can pick up something harmful for the road. If you can't do that, then at least pray 2 rakats of the Duha, and Allah will reward you for all 360 joints of your body. In other words, the Prophet also said charity is not just money. He told the companions, anytime you do a good deed, that's a form of charity. He said, wiping the mucus off the floor of the mosque, that's a form of charity. Picking up something out of the street that will be harmful for the people is a form of charity. He said, and if you were to perform 2 rakats of Duha prayer, Allah will reward you for all 360 parts of your body. So that way, he said, you have no excuse to think that they will surpass you because they have money. There's other things you can do that will bring about the same reward that don't require giving up money. Does everybody understand? So that's what happened to cause the Prophet to speak about this Duha prayer like this, because the original companions, they felt intimidated because they were poor. They didn't have the money and stuff to give in charity financially like the new converts, the Quraysh had. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O son of Adam, do not fail in performing 4 rakats in the early day, because it will be sufficient for the last part of the day. And those 4 rakats are the Duha prayer that he was speaking about. Remember, guys, we talked about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, make your voluntary prayers different than the obligatory ones. So that's why we pray the voluntary prayers in rakats and sets of 2s. So in this hadith, the Prophet is saying, pray 4 rakats of the Duha prayer. That means pray 2 rakats and then give salams and then pray 2 more. Okay? So that's the Duha prayer. That's the virtues of it. The virtues of it is Allah will reward you for every joint in your body as a form of charity if you perform it. Also, the Prophet, one of the companions, Abdullah ibn Amir, he says the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent us. He sent an expedition and they obtained a lot of money and returned quickly. And the people spoke about their quick victory and the money they had. And that's when the Prophet said, shall I not tell you something that's better than this money? He said, whoever makes wudu and then goes to the mosque to pray Duha, that is the closer battle. It's better than the war money. and the return to Allah with it is quicker. So again, this is another hadith speaking of the virtues of the Duha prayer. And yes, it's a voluntary prayer. You can pray it at home, but you also see that the Prophet is saying that this voluntary prayer can also be prayed at the mosque. Also, we have this authentic hadith from Abu Huraira. He said, my friend, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised me to do 3 things. He advised me to fast 3 days out of every month, and to pray the Duha prayer, and to pray witr before I sleep. And you guys see, when I quote these hadiths, I give y'all the sources so you can see that all the hadiths I am using are authentic. I don't use any questionable hadiths. You can rest assured that any hadiths I use, they are all authentic. Okay? And that's why I always put the source. Okay, Anas. He tells us that during a journey, he saw the Prophet pray 8 rakats in the early morning. And when the Prophet finished, he said, I prayed my prayer, wishing and fearing. I asked my Lord for 3 things, and he gave me 2 and kept 1. I asked him not to punish my nation with famine, and he gave me that. And I asked that my people not be overtaken by their enemies, and he gave me that. And I asked that they not be split into groups and sets. He refused me that. And this is part of a long hadith, whereas Allah told the Prophet, we'll never be destroyed by our enemies, but our destruction will be from ourselves. But here you can see that during this hadith, the main point that I want y'all to take from this is that the Prophet prayed 8 rakats. 8 rakats duha. So here you can see the duha prayer can be prayed in 4 rakats, or you see here that the duha prayer can be prayed in 8 rakats. That's what the Prophet was seen doing in those 2 hadiths. Okay? And again, it's not an obligatory prayer. It's voluntary. You don't have to ever pray it. But if you're looking to get close to Allah, if you're looking to earn Allah's love, then you should do it. We have another hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was seen praying duha until the companions thought he would never stop praying it. And then he stopped praying it, and they thought he'd never do it again. A lot of people ask, what does that hadith mean? Well, the Prophet did a lot of voluntary prayers, but when he saw the people imitating him, he would stop doing them. Why? Because he didn't want them to think that it was an obligation. That's what happened with the Taraweeh. The Prophet would perform Taraweeh, and then when the people joined him, he led them. But then when they came to join him again, he didn't come out to pray it, because he did not want the people to think that Taraweeh is an obligatory time to pray. Well, that's the same with the Duha. He would let the people see him pray it sometimes, and he'd stop praying it so that they wouldn't think that it was an obligation. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the prayer in my mosque is equal to 10,000 prayers anywhere else. And prayer in any of the other mosques is equal to 100,000 prayers anywhere else. Prayer on the battlefield is equal to 1 million prayers somewhere else. And what is more than all of that is the 2 rakats that you pray during the middle of the night. And we talked about that hadith. This is talking about the night prayer. Okay? the virtues of the night prayer? Well, the Duha prayer brings good reward too, same reward too. And what is the recommended time to pray it? Because the night prayer is during the night. What is the time for Duha? Well, the time for Duha begins when the sun is about a spear's length above the horizon, and you have up until the sun reaches its meridian. In other words, let me break this down in plain, simple English. The Duha prayer can be prayed after the sun has risen. You wait until the sun has risen. I would say like 8 o'clock in the morning. It would begin at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning after the sun. And when you can see it, when you see the sun in the sky above the land, that's when you can start praying Duha. But it ends at the adhan for Duha, because Duha is the midday prayer. I mean the middle of the midday prayer. So you can pray the Duha prayer anytime from the time the sun is in the sky until the adhan for Duha. Everybody understand that? So you have until the adhan for Duha, after the sun has risen, to pray it. Okay? Oh, I'm trying to hit the wrong button. Also, we have this hadith, whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to the people of Quba. Quba is a suburb of Medina, and they were performing the Duha prayer. And you can see that can be prayed together too. You can pray the Duha prayer together too. All the voluntary prayers can be prayed together. This is how you teach your children. This is how you teach your family how to pray. Have your daughters, your sons pray the Duha prayer with you. So the people were performing the Duha, and the Prophet said the prayer of devotion, that's the Duha, should be observed when the young weaned camels feel the heat of the sun. In other words, after the sun has risen up and it's in the sky, you can see it over the horizon. Okay? When the sun is up, you can feel the heat because the sun is out. Okay? So that's the time to pray it. Finally, how many rakats? The minimum rakat of the Duha prayer is 2. And that's based on the following hadith. The hadith of Abu Dar. He said that the most that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed was 8 rakats of the Duha prayer. And the minimum would be 2. Okay, so if you want to pray 8 rakats, you pray them in sets of 2, or you can just pray 2 rakats. And these are my sources. Y'all see, I put all the sources so you see that they're authentic. Also, one of the companions said none of the companions or their followers are known to have restricted it to 12 rakats. Because some people say that it should be no least than 12. You will hear some people say that the Duha prayer should be 12 rakats. Well, that's not correct. None of the companions or their followers are known to have restricted the Duha prayer to 12 rakats. Also, El-Hassan, who was the grandson of the Prophet, was asked, did the companions perform the Duha prayer? And he said, yes. He said some of them would pray 2 rakats, and some of them would pray 4 rakats, and some of them would continue until half the day had passed. In other words, they never went over 12. Okay? Also, Ibn Yazid, he was asked how many rakats are to be prayed for duha. He said as many as you wish. Okay? And Hani, do you guys remember who Hani was? Can anyone tell me who was Hani? I gave y'all her story. But what more about her? What else about her? Exactly, Hani. She was the Prophet Muhammad's first love. They grew up together as children. They were cousins. They played together as children. And he said, when I grow up, I'm going to marry you. And she wanted to marry him. But it never worked out because he was poor. He was an orphan. As you all know, Hani ended up being married to Hamza's brother. They married Hani to Hamza's brother, and the Prophet went on and married Khadijah. Khadijah and Hani were best friends. And then when Hamza's brother died, the Prophet wanted to marry Hani, but it just didn't work out. Finally, after the conquest of Mecca, he could have married her, but they both realized, hey, that ship done passed. So Hani, may Allah be pleased with her, she was the first love of the Prophet. Yes, he loved her, wanted to marry her, but it just didn't work out. They could never get it together. She tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed 8 rakats of duha. And when he would pray them in sets of 2s. And this is authentic. This is what she saw. Because she would see him pray the duha prayer. So that shows sometimes he prayed 2 rakats. Sometimes he prayed 4 rakats. Sometimes he prayed 6 rakats. And here you see sometimes he prayed 8. And finally, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. She was the one of the wives of the Prophet. She said when the Prophet was with her, he would pray 4 rakats duha. Okay, so the duha prayer basically can be as many rakats as you want. It should be prayed in sets of 2s. The least being 2 rakats. You don't want to make it 1 rakat because witr. 1 rakat is witr, and witr is how we end the night. Witr is not how we begin the day. So if you're going to make the duha prayer, you want to wait until the sun has risen. It's up where you can see it's in the sky. You can feel the heat. And you can pray 2 rakats or as many as you want up until the time for the adhan of Duha. Okay, and I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.